The image on your left-hand side is basically the famous Cubbon Park. But today, if you come to Bangalore, Cubbon Park has a different picture. Okay. Now the image on the image in the middle, that is actually what Bangalore is now. More of buildings and less of greenery. Bangalore is actually facing climate change. If you look at the image which I have posted here, it is from Indian Institute of Science. You can see more of red colors. That is because more built-up spaces have come up and they have removed vegetation, water bodies, and open spaces. So urbanization is coming at a cost. Now, let's look at the water bodies. This is also an impact of urbanization. Now, if you're aware, actually Bangalore doesn't have any rivers. It literally has no rivers. Bangalore was once famously called as the land of 1,000 tanks. I would rather say tanks because they are man-made lakes. But today, from those 1,000 tanks, literally, we have about 30 to 40, which are in somewhat better condition. And if you really look at the pristine quality, maybe a handful. Now, if you look at the images from left-hand side to the bottom right-hand side, the percentage of blue has reduced, and rather the colors such as yellow, red, purple, violet have increased. This is urbanization, my dear friends. Urbanization which has destroyed the water network of Bangalore and literally has hence caused the impact on its climate. Can everyone see the screen?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah. This screen is or was once upon a time a lake. No, I might be kind of sarcastic in this presentation, but this is once upon a time a lake. But then you can't see water. Unfortunately or fortunately, some people felt bad and decided to show some water and say, this is the lake of Bangalore. This is the real issue of Bangalore, the disappearance of the lakes. Now, I'll show you a small video. Because if the lakes have disappeared, where did the water go? I'll just show you a small video. It will take 30 seconds. Please let me know if you can see the video. Were you able to see the video?
Yes, sir.
So that is where actually all the water went. When it comes to Bangalore, since it doesn't have any rivers and we had to depend on lakes, we basically had a cascading system. There are, three valleys with respect to water for Bangalore. And, all these lakes used to basically transfer water from one lake to another lake when it overflows. That is, whenever it heavily rains, water from one lake enters a channel, and from that channel, it enters another lake. Now that you have removed the lakes, there is no other place for the water to go other than the roads. So in that video, what you basically saw was water entering your urban areas. This is also urbanization. Now, if you look at this screen, you can see both old Bangalore and new Bangalore. Once upon a time, we had sufficient open spaces. But today, very sorry to say that the open space what we have in Bangalore is less than what Bombay or Delhi has. That is how urbanization has taken place in Bangalore. You can see very clearly all those old landscapes have given way. Bullock carts have given ways to four-wheelers and two-wheelers. And if you can see, I'm sure you can see the where my cursor is moving. This is the entry point to Tamil Nadu. This is Electronic City. This is Hosur Road. Okay, so everything has changed. This is the most famous Brigade Road, where nightlife is very active. But this is what Brigade Road was once upon a time. if you ever come to Bangalore, you will always be stuck in this place due to traffic jam. But on 30-40 years back, this town hall was not like that. So what is happening? Urbanization. Okay, now I have showed you glimpses of urbanization. I have told you what all problems may happen, what all impacts may happen, but we have still not come to the most important impact, the most accelerated outcome of urbanization, that is climate change. Climate change, which is interconnected with two more phenomena: global warming, global dimming. Now, we need to understand one thing here. I'm sure, since you are students of environmental science, pollution can influence climate change, and climate change can influence pollution. In fact, what the city of Delhi is basically facing, the Union Territory is basically facing, is not because of pollution. It is because of the climate. Okay, so with this information, now let me give you a brief glimpse of what is global dimming. Global dimming is actually the opposite of global warming. So global dimming is a phenomenon wherein the place tends to become cooler. Okay, and why? Again, pollution. That is the interesting part. When there is pollution coming out which contains sulfur, it leads to global dimming. And not just the industries, also your aircrafts. So all this pollution is causing global dimming, wherein the temperature of the earth is reducing. So what is the problem? The problem is, as the temperature dips, probably you have impact with respect to the vegetation and so forth. Now, the focus for today's presentation is not global dimming, but rather global warming. So I will shift to global warming. This is also something very simple. All of you are aware of it. So I will just rush through this. So we know that sun's radiation comes, strikes the earth. Now, depending on the surfaces, let's say, you got ice caps, you got greenery, okay, they get reflected. Also, it gets reflected due to presence of clouds. But some amount of radiation is basically absorbed by the earth. Now, the important part here, please listen very carefully. The important part here is, if the amount of radiation which hits the earth and the amount of radiation which is re-radiated back, if it is same, okay, then the temperature remains same. But if the amount of radiation reflected back is lesser than the amount of radiation absorbed, then it leads to global warming. Global warming is, miscommunicated most times by saying that it is the earth gets hotter. No, it is basically an average increase in the temperature of air and surfaces. So most people generally forget the surfaces concept. It is not just the air which is getting hotter. It's also the surfaces. And yes, on the contrary, if there is more radiation escaping, you tend to become a cold planet. Okay. My dear friends, can I proceed? Sir, can I continue? Ravichandran sir, can I continue?
Proceed.
Yes. So till now, all of you have understood, or you're much aware than me, but I just gave you a glimpse of what is urbanization, what all happens in urbanization. I gave you an example of how Bangalore got urbanized, just to familiarize the issue. Okay, now we also understood what is global dimming. We are also very much aware, much better than me, what is global warming. So I'm sure this screen does not make much of a difference, because you know what are greenhouse gases. But eventually, what is global warming leading to? There's always a controversy which is running in the scientific world. That is, when somebody says global warming, they say methane, they say carbon dioxide. But in reality, if we are alive, it's because actually Earth is warm. We are all warm-blooded animals. We are all warm-blooded creatures, and we should be thanking water vapor for this. We should be thanking the water cycle or hydrological cycle. It's only because of water vapor, which is the strongest greenhouse gas on earth, that we are alive. Okay, but now what are we doing? We are releasing more and more greenhouse gases, and we are also releasing water vapor. Now, whenever you talk about your air conditioners, okay, it could be the AC vehicles or AC buildings. It is like one man's umbrella is another man's water tank. All you stay cool, we stay cool inside, but all the hot fumes are going outside. Okay, so global warming is leading to the most dangerous occurrence on Earth, and which is called climate change. Yes, global warming is a natural phenomenon. Climate change is also a natural phenomenon. But what I and you are observing here is not a natural phenomenon. It is an accelerated anthropogenic phenomenon, which means it is happening very rapidly. I'll just show you a small video of 2 to 3 minutes to make you understand what is the danger that I and you are facing. If we are able to respect the danger that I and you are facing, then you'll understand what I'm going to talk further, which may scare most of us.
This real-life lore video is sponsored out of 100 actively NOAA estimates that global sea levels could rise by up to 2.5 meters by the year 2100, which would have devastating consequences. If this happens, entire island countries like the Maldives, Marshall Islands, Kiribati, and Tuvalu will be submerged beneath the ocean and cease to exist. Their entire populations will have to be transplanted somewhere else, and this will create a situation in which hundreds of thousands of stateless people will have to find a new home. 150 million total climate refugees from around the world may exist by 2050, and by 2100, that number could rise up to 2 billion people, 18% of the global population at that time. But in an even worse case scenario than this, however, what would happen if all the ice on Earth melted? If all the ice on Antarctica, Greenland, and the world's glaciers melted into the ocean, it would raise global sea levels by an incredible 68.3 meters. Such a catastrophe would take 5,000 years at the current rate of ice melting to happen, but it would severely alter the geography of our planet. In North America, Vancouver, Seattle, Portland, and most of San Diego and Los Angeles would be underwater. San Francisco would be an island, and San Jose would be destroyed by the waves. The San Francisco Bay would greatly expand in size to completely swallow Sacramento. The Gulf of California would expand so far north that Palm Springs would become a coastal city, while on the Atlantic coast, the ocean would expand to swallow the cities of Corpus Christi, Houston, New Orleans, the entire state of Florida, as well as the entire state of Delaware, almost all of Long Island, and the cities of New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., and Boston. South America would also be severely flooded with 2 new inland seas existing on the continent, and the cities of Buenos Aires, Montevideo, and Italy underwater, including the city of Berlin, and Venice in Italy would have long since been reclaimed by the Adriatic Sea. Istanbul would also be underwater, the Crimean Peninsula would become the Crimean Island, and the Black and Caspian Seas would be connected with one another, which would mean that Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and Azerbaijan would no longer be landlocked countries. Africa would perhaps be the least severely affected continent, but Egypt would be severely damaged by having both Alexandria and the city of Baghdad. India and Pakistan would be badly damaged, but the entire country of Bangladesh would cease to exist in this catastrophe. Hundreds of millions of people would be underwater in China, including Beijing and Shanghai, in addition to the cities of Seoul, Pyongyang, and Tokyo. Australia would be home to a new inland sea, and finally, Antarctica would become more of an archipelago. But unlike the Antarctica of today, this Antarctica would likely be habitable and easily colonizable.
Sir, did everyone see the video?
Yes, sir.
So, it was just a honest attempt to make the audience understand that what is that we are facing. Whenever we speak about climate change, whenever we speak about global warming, we are looking at submergence. We are looking at rising water levels. We are looking at melting of ice. If you look at this image in front of you, it shows Himalayas before global warming and after global warming. It's very scary. All the snow, ice, glaciers have disappeared. So all this is going to cause what you saw in the video. No Bangladesh, no Shanghai, no Berlin. Okay, there are certain cities which will be totally disconnected from the other parts of the continents or country. But what I'm trying to tell you here is that is global warming, what you saw. But that can be accelerated also. What you saw in the video can be accelerated also. And to understand that, we need to understand the meaning of the word environment. As I told you in the beginning, mostly people say what you speak is not English. Yes, I agree. In fact, the word environment itself is French. And what does the word environment mean? To surround or surrounding. But in our school days, when somebody asks you, what is your environment? We say Himalayas. We say Ganga. No, that is not correct. Our environment is something which surrounds us in an immediate manner. So most probably, definitely, I will never say Himalaya is part of my environment. I will never say Ganga is part of my environment. But definitely, I will say Corona is part of my environment. Correct? Now, most of us are indoors. Most of us are inside the four walls. Why? Because now our environment is Corona hit. Am I right or wrong? We are all surrounded by viruses. We are surrounded by Corona. Okay. So what I'm trying to put across to you is, it is not global warming that you have to be scared of. There is something more dangerous, something more hidden, something more sinister, which is more to be worried about. Now, I can give you a better example to make you understand what I'm trying to put across. Everybody knows this gentleman. He's one favorite actor of mine. Just imagine, okay, I presume this is from the movie Basha. Let's imagine, you're watching a movie in a theater and Mr. Rajnikant says, Basha, but let's say, instead of Rajnikant telling you on the screen, let us say he comes to you, he stands in front of you and he says, Basha, Manik Basha, don't you think that you will be more influenced? Don't you think that you will be more affected? Which means anything which is far away can affect you, but not to the extent of something which is very close to you. My dear friends, what I want to tell you is, it is not global warming that you have to be scared about. It is urban warming. Okay. Now, what you're looking at is basically the phenomenon urban heat islands, wherein some part of the city is very hot, but the surroundings around it is very cool. If I and you continue to create more urban heat islands, then the video what you saw will happen much more faster. Now, let me give you some knowledge about urban heat islands. I'm sure most of you are aware of it, but the gentleman, Luke Howard, who was also called as the cloud man of London. Okay, he basically studied the climate of London, and he was the first person who said that there is something called as urban heat islands. He said that the city is more hot, the city is more warm than the villages. He said that the urban areas are more hotter than the surrounding landscapes, than the forest, than the villages and the farmlands. This was 18th century. In 19th century, a gentleman called as Renu, he worked on it. Okay, basically both Luke Howard and Renu, they worked with historical data. In simple words, what they did is, they compared temperature data of years, decades, and this data belonged to a city area and a village area. So when they compared the temperature data, they got to know that cities are somewhat more hotter, more warmer, and they came up with this concept of urban heat islands. But it was Gordon Manley who gave the term urban heat islands. Okay, until then the word urban heat islands did not exist. Tennyson sir, are there any queries that I can take up in the session? Any doubts if any of students have?
சொல்லுங்க சார்.
Thank you very much for your
Okay.
presentation. It was very useful and you distinguished between global warming and urban warming. Very good. And it was very, very eye-opening to every one of us. Now it is open for discussion. Anybody wants to ask anything, you can ask now. Open for discussion now. The participants can ask.
I am sure if I know the answer, I'll definitely answer. Otherwise, I'll get back to you with the answer. I'm still learning along with you people.
Sir, good morning. This is Mahamuni, Assistant Professor of Environmental Sciences.
Good morning, sir.
Sir, I don't have any questions actually, but I would like to discuss this matter with you. Even almost all the scientists, environmentalists, and politicians, they all know that population is one of the problem, but no government is take up this issue and exploit any population control measures, but rather they are doing and their control measures on pollution control, everything they are doing, but population control they are not taking up. What as academicians we can do with for this issue, sir?
Sir, I am not sure as an academician what I can do, but as a town planner, I can share some knowledge, what I have. I sincerely hope I'm correct. Now, basically what happens is, even when you talk about India and China, China is more populated than us, but China has no problem because the space is much more. Our problem is not population. Our problem is population density. So what needs to be understood by the government or the town planner is when we plan towns, okay, we cannot just go on expanding cities. Probably we need to now start looking at smaller cities or satellite towns. We need to first restrict. Let's say we take the master plan of Chandigarh, okay, so it's a given area. In this given area for the next 15 years or 30 years, this is how much the population will rise. If we can do that, only then probably this issue can be solved, because I know very well, you know very well that population is a problem which is beyond everyone's control. So I don't think I and you can resolve it unless government comes with some stringent measures like China or something. But under the circumstances, the best solution is a sustainable town planning.
Thank you very much. Also, I thank all the participants from our own college and from other institutions. Thank you very much.
Sir, I also would like to thank each one of you, all the student members, faculty members, and especially Ravi sir and Tennyson sir.